Hello, and welcome to the Flu Mystery, an activity brought to you today by Families Fighting Flu and the Iowa City Science Booster Club. Families Fighting Flu is a national, nonprofit advocacy organization dedicated to raising awareness about the seriousness of flu and the importance of flu prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. The Iowa City Science Booster Club is an organization dedicated to engaging with the Johnson County area, promoting science education, and helping kids get involved with STEM. In this activity, you all are going to be our esteemed scientists joining our research team, working to identify influenza outbreaks and stop their spread worldwide. So, welcome to my lab. My name is Dr. Chelsea, and I'm an epidemiologist in California. An epidemiologist is someone who studies diseases and other health problems and how they spread through a community, and I am so glad you are here. You see, we are experiencing a major influenza or flu outbreak in California, and it's serious and an emergency. I've seen so many people very suddenly come down with fever, chills, cough, weakness, and more, and I really could use your help. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to identify the other countries who have influenza outbreaks like the one we have identified in California. Once you determine which countries have outbreaks, you need to create a vaccine to help stop the spread. So let's investigate. I'm going to send you to my colleagues in Argentina, Nigeria, China, and New Zealand. We think that 2 of these countries might have flu outbreaks, and it's your job to figure out which ones. On your plane ride, you'll hear an expert go over some in-flight announcements that might give you hints about your next country. I'll be traveling with you, so if you have any questions at any time, please just unmute yourself to ask or write your question in the chat. I'll make sure that either I or one of my colleagues answers your question. Now, let's go visit my colleague, Dr. Karina. He's a doctor in Argentina, and he recently got sick. He really needs your help. So, without further ado, let's get going.
Welcome to Families Fighting Flu Airlines. As we travel to Argentina, please make sure to set all devices to airplane mode as we go over some in-flight announcements. This flight's announcement is about cold versus flu. Now, the common cold and flu are both respiratory illnesses, but they are not the same. They are caused by different viruses. Because cold and flu can have a variety of similar symptoms, like headache, body pain, and sore throat, it can sometimes be difficult to tell the difference between the two. Flu symptoms are generally worse than cold symptoms. High fever and chills are commonly associated with the flu, but are rarely found in cases of the cold. The flu is much more severe than a cold and results in hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations and tens of thousands of deaths every year. This is why getting a flu vaccine is so important. Oh, please make sure your seatbelts are fastened, and welcome to Argentina.
Welcome to Argentina, everyone. I am so excited to introduce you to my good friend, Dr. Karina. Dr. Karina, do you want to tell us what's going on?
Hey everyone, I'm Karina, Dr. Karina, one of Chelsea's colleagues. So I've been working here in Argentina and recently came down sick. Last night I took my temperature and it was 102 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what I have, but Dr. Chelsea tells me that you are all great scientists that can help me figure out if I have the flu or maybe something else. But I have time for only one question because I'd really like to get back in bed. So what question would you like to ask me?
Now, you should see some options for what question you think would be good to ask Dr. Karina on your screen. To vote in this poll, Just click on the answer that you like best, and you may have the option to submit. Once everyone has voted, we will go ahead and ask the question that the majority of you picked. All right, good timing, everyone. So, Dr. Karina, we would like to know, do you have body aches and chills?
That's a good question. So yes, my whole body hurts and I'm very cold. You can see I'm wrapped up in my favorite blanket to keep me warm. But those are my only symptoms. I don't have a stuffy nose or cough or anything else. It's just those body aches and chills. Do you have any idea of what this could be?
I know I do, but let's have our scientists vote. Scientists, you should see a poll on your screen that asks, do the patients in this country seem to have the flu? If you aren't sure about the answer, pick which one you think is best and we'll go over it. Okay, it looks like 100% of my research team says that, yes, Dr. Karina, you do seem to have the flu.
Wow, I have the flu? I'm really surprised because I got the flu vaccination last year, so I thought I'd be covered for this year too.
You see, annual influenza outbreaks are inevitable because the flu mutates so quickly. Because the flu mutates so quickly, new vaccines are required every year.
That's good to know. So I'll make sure to get my flu shot early every year now. Thanks again for helping me out. I'm going to go to the doctor tomorrow if I don't feel better because I know the flu can get serious. Thanks again, everyone, and good luck with the rest of the countries.
Thanks, Dr. Karina. Okay, now that we visited Argentina, we are going to travel to Nigeria, where we will talk to a nurse who's been experiencing patient care. So without further ado, let's fly to Nigeria.
Welcome to Families Fighting Flu Airlines. As we travel to Nigeria, please stay seated while I go through some in-flight announcements. This flight's announcement is about community immunity, sometimes known as herd immunity. A flu spreading through a community can be slowed down if many members of that community are vaccinated. If the community doesn't have very many people vaccinated, the virus can spread quickly because there are more available opportunities to infect. On the other hand, when most of the community is immunized, flu spread can be very rare. Now, this is important because some members of the community may have medical reasons why they may not be able to get a vaccine. The vaccinated community is protecting those who need it most. We're arriving at our destination. Please buckle your seatbelts and welcome to Nigeria.
Welcome to Nigeria, everyone. I am so excited to introduce you to Nurse Sophia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia and I'm an emergency room nurse at a hospital. I treat patients that need urgent attention and we've been getting quite a few of those lately. Dr. Chelsea tells me that you're traveling around to help figure out which countries have a flu outbreak, and I do have a lot of patients, so I have time for just one question.
All right, Nurse Sophia, it looks like we want to know, what are your patient's symptoms?
That's a great question. Let me check my patient records. So they're all reporting similar symptoms of stomach cramps, vomiting, and nausea, but none of them have a high fever. And one other interesting piece of information is that they all actually reported shopping at the exact same grocery store recently. I wonder if there's anything to that. What do you all think?
It's possible. I think we should think about whether or not your patients have the flu. So, scientists, what do you think? That one was a tough one, and it looks like a majority of us said that no, your patients don't have the flu, but some of us thought they did. What do you think, Nurse Sophia?
I agree, scientists. I also don't think it's the flu. I think it's probably a stomach infection, or what people sometimes incorrectly call the stomach flu. And the reason I think that is because none of my patients have a high fever, and some of the other symptoms they're displaying sound more like a stomach infection. But it is really important to remember that the viruses that cause a stomach infection are not the same as those that cause influenza or the flu. I have to go check on my patients now, but it was great meeting you all, and good luck at your next country.
Bye, Nurse Sophia. That is a really important distinction. Now that we know that, I am going to fly us out to my colleague in China to see what's going on with him and his workers.
Welcome to Families Fighting Flu Airlines. As we travel to China, please make sure your luggage is safely stowed while I go through some in-flight announcements. This flight's announcement is about flu vectors. The flu virus can spread to humans in many different ways. Humans can spread flu to other humans by direct contact, contact with contaminated surfaces, and through aerosols caused by things like sneezing. Pigs and humans can share the swine flu virus, meaning it can be spread both ways. Human-to-human spread of swine flu can also occur. Birds can spread avian flu to other birds and sometimes humans. Avian flu spread between humans is very rare. Oh, we're arriving at our destination. Please buckle your seatbelts and welcome to China.
Welcome to China, everyone. I am very excited to introduce you to one of my different colleagues. Chicken Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Welcome to Chicken Joe's Chicken Emporium. Now, I reckon y'all those fancy scientists from California here to figure out what the ruckus is with all these illnesses. Now, I'm gonna shoot straight with you. I'm in a bit of a pickle. I employ 10 workers at this here chicken farm, and half of them are homesick. Now, I only have a minute because those chickens are stirring up something fierce. So I can only answer one question before I skedaddle.
All right. Chicken Joe, we want to know, do the families of sick workers also get sick?
Well, I'll be a butter biscuit. That's a great question. You know what? The family members aren't getting sick. So when I heard from my employers, they were saying that their mamas, their papas, their brothers, their sister, none of their kin are getting sick. So what do you think about that?
I think that is very telling on whether or not your workers are getting the flu. Scientists, what do you think? Okay, it looks like most of us think that no, Chicken Joe, Your employees are not experiencing an influenza outbreak.
Well, I'm happier than a possum eating a sweet potato. Why do you think that is, Dr. Chelsea?
I think this is actually a case of a bird flu, which is different than the influenza virus that we've been looking at. Bird flu is caused by a different disease, and the reason the sick family or the family members of sick workers aren't getting sick is because you have to get the flu from the bird. Human to human spread is very rare.
Well, thank you, scientists, for all your help.
All right. Thanks, Chicken Joe. Next, we will go to my friend in New Zealand. She is a doctor and she's going to tell us a bit about what's going on with her patients.
Welcome to Families Fighting Flu Airlines. As we travel to New Zealand, please make sure your luggage is safely stowed while I go through some in-flight announcements. This flight's announcement is about seasonal versus pandemic flu. Seasonal flu usually peaks between December and February and is generally spread within a community. On the other hand, pandemic flus are much rarer and happen when a global outbreak of a new type of flu is rapidly spread across the globe. Seasonal flu can be spread from person to person through droplets when someone sneezes or coughs. Pandemic flu can be spread the same way, but this kind of flu can potentially infect many more people because few have immunity to the new virus. Pandemic flu can be a serious burden on healthcare providers and hospitals because they can be overwhelmed with cases. We are arriving at our destination. Please buckle your seatbelts and welcome to New Zealand.
Welcome, welcome to New Zealand. I am so excited to introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Sarah. Dr. Sarah?
Hello there. My name is Dr. Sarah, as Chelsea said, and I'm a doctor at the Auckland Hospital in New Zealand. So I've seen a sudden influx of patients with some pretty serious symptoms. I'd like to go over some recent hospital records with you so that you can help me determine if my patients have the flu. What question would you most like to ask about my patients?
Okay, it looks like we have everyone who's voting. And we actually have a tie between what are your patient's symptoms and do your patient's symptoms come on quickly or slowly?
I think I can answer both of those questions. Okay, so let me just go over them patient by patient. So my first patient is a 47-year-old male. He's had a fever of 102 for a couple of days, as well as chills and dizziness. My second patient is a 67-year-old male. He's been complaining of fever, body aches, dehydration, and a bit of an elevated heart rate as well. And my third and last patient is a 71-year-old female. She has had difficulty breathing, dizziness, fever, again, weakness, and aches. See if you can find any similarities between those three. I believe they all do have fever, so that's one of them. All right, that's all I have for you. Scientists, do you think any of these patients have symptoms of the flu?
I know this one is kind of hard, so I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. And everyone's in. So, Dr. Sarah, every single one of my scientists think that, yes, your patients do have the flu.
Wow, that's quite a consensus. Thank you so much for your help. It sounds like I need to make sure my patients are getting a good care because the flu can be really dangerous, especially for older people. And I need to make sure that they know to stay up to date on their yearly flu vaccine as well. Thank you and good luck in your investigation.
Thanks, Dr. Sarah. Okay, so congratulations, scientists. Together, we have figured out which countries have the flu. We decided that Argentina and New Zealand are both experiencing flu outbreaks like the one we're experiencing in the US. Now that we know that, let's go ahead and fly back to California so I can introduce you to my lab research team and you can develop a vaccine. That was the fastest flight I've ever been on. Now that we are back in California, I am very excited to introduce you to the head of our lab research team, Dr. Briante.
Hello all, and welcome to my lab. Congratulations on figuring out which countries have the flu outbreak. We're going to use the knowledge you learned to make a vaccine for all the countries with flu outbreaks. Influenza vaccines train our bodies to recognize the influenza virus so our body's defenses can attack the viruses in the future. Influenza vaccines imitate a flu infection by introducing our bodies to a weak or dead influenza virus. You cannot get the flu from the flu vaccine because inactivated flu viruses are used in vaccines. Our first step is to pick out 4 different flu families. Certain types of flu are more closely related to each other, which means these viruses are all in the same family. The reason we choose 4 different flu families instead of 1 is so that the vaccine can protect us against more than one type of flu virus. There are lots of different flu virus families. There are a lot of different flu virus families out there every year, which is why we'll be making a vaccine choosing 4 different families of influenza. Blue, orange, purple, green, and yellow indicate 5 different flu families we can choose from. All these colored viruses represent past flu outbreaks. As an example, we have encircled this flu virus from the USA and this flu virus from China. These 2 outbreaks are both part of the same flu family. Another example is Indonesia and Nigeria being part of the same flu family. Before we pick our 4 flu viruses, we have to consider the location of flu families. Geography is important because flu viruses that are from places that are relatively close together are typically more closely related. For this reason, in this activity, we'll try to make our vaccine with viruses that are from places that are relatively close to countries you have figured out have current outbreaks. As an example, imagine we're making a vaccine for an outbreak in the USA. What would be good examples of a flu virus close to the USA? Don't worry about color of the virus for this example, just focus on how close the virus is to the USA. Please answer using this poll. Awesome, these are great answers. Trinidad would be the closest virus to the USA. Brazil and China are also relatively close as well. So the question we have to keep in mind is how close are these viruses to the countries we picked from this activity? The red circles indicate the countries that you have just identified have the virus. And it's time to pick out your flu viruses to make our vaccine. Again, the red circles indicate the countries that we've just determined have the flu. The way we'll pick out our flu viruses for the vaccine is by using a poll to pick viruses from 4 past outbreaks. There are 10 outbreaks you all can choose from, and because we're making a 4 flu family vaccine, please only vote for 4 flu viruses. We'll pick the 4 countries with the most votes to make a flu vaccine that will save the most lives and reduce hospitalizations. We have a lot of options, so make sure you scroll all the way through them. All right, and the results are in. The 4 chosen flu outbreaks is the USA, Brazil, Australia, and Indonesia. So I'm going to use the viruses you all chose to determine how effective our vaccine will be. I'll calculate how many people this vaccine kept out of hospitals and how many people's lives were saved by this vaccine. And the results are in. Congratulations. Because you made an effective vaccine, we saved the lives of 1.3 million people. And we were also able to decrease hospitalizations by 7 million people. Thank you for helping us make a vaccine. And I'll send you all back to Chelsea for closing statements.
All right, scientists, I hope you had a great time today. You all did very excellent work. You learned more about the flu and other diseases that have similar symptoms but aren't the same. You determined which countries were experiencing influenza outbreaks. And you created a vaccine that saved millions of lives. That is incredible. We've reached the end of our activity, but your efforts don't have to stop here. Influenza is a very serious disease that is preventable with a vaccine. We're in the middle of flu season right now, but it's never too late to get your flu vaccine. You now know about community immunity, so you know that we can protect others by getting vaccinated ourselves. Together, we can stop the spread of influenza and save lives. If that sounds good to you, be like the superhero flu fighter on your screen and encourage your friends and family to get vaccinated. Thank you so much for your attention today, and I look forward to seeing your scientific pursuits in the future. Thank you.